Let's be honest, custody and placement fights are dynamite charged. Raw emotions, complicated issues, frustration, alienation. It's important to understand how custody and placement determinations are made, what mistakes you can make along the way, how you can correct those mistakes, and ultimately how you can determine your outcome. So let's be honest. People mix up and confuse the terms custody and placement all the time. Sometimes they think they're the same thing. Sometimes they flip them. Sometimes they just don't know what they are. So let's go through this and straighten everyone out once and for all, okay? There's joint legal custody, sole legal custody, joint legal custody with impasse authority. There's shared placement, there's primary placement.
They're easy to interchange, and I find that people who are not from the state of Wisconsin are the first people to confuse this because other states find custody and placement all falls into one. Custody deals with the decision making. It deals with where your child's going to go to school. It deals with where they're going to go to church. It deals with whether or not they can get a driver's license at the age of 16. Those custodial decisions. The court is always going to value that each parent has an equal decision making process, has the ability to weigh in on those decision making factors. When you're talking about placement, placement deals with where your child is going to lay their head at night. So how many overnights are they going to be at one parent's house versus how many overnights are going to be at the other parent's house? Custody and placement's easy to confuse because you always hear them put together. But when you go into court understanding custodial decisions are going to be those decisions that we make together. Placement is, again, where your child's going to sleep at night. And how are placement arrangements going to be made? How are transportation arrangements going to be made? Who's going to pick up? Who is going to drop off? From what location is that going to happen? Who's going to have on specific holidays the minor child? Who's going to have over summer or spring breaks? How are those decisions going to be made? All encompasses placement.
We've been talking about custody and placement as it's related to married couples and their adjustment to life upon separation and new normals. What about custody and placement for unmarried couples? Are the sets of rights or the issues around custody and placement any different?
So again, we've already talked about parents' rights. Parents' rights don't diminish because the parties aren't married. Again, the court values the fact that every child has a mother and a father and a set of parents that need to love them and take part in their lives. Mm-hmm. So even if the parties are unmarried, you're still going to have rights to that child, the same as if you would have been married.
So the court, if I'm saying this correctly and understanding this, the court starts at joint legal custody.
Correct.
So what are the alternatives?
So you can have sole custody, where you're going to make all of the decisions for the minor child, or you can have custody with impasse authority.
Would a court also look at the way that parents historically have been a part of that decision-making process?
They'll look at the historical perspective. They'll look at, what is the best interest factors. We've talked about the best interest factors previously. What falls into the school schedule? What falls into programming? What falls into having that schedule, having that routine? Where are their siblings going to school? They will look at those factors and they're going to say, okay, have we been able to meet all the criteria for this, and what is in the best interest of the child?
So let's shift to placement then. So it's my understanding that the courts of Wisconsin start at joint legal custody, right? Do they also start at equal placement?
The courts value that every child has a parent or parents, okay? That each child has a mom and a dad, that everyone needs that meaningful periods of placement with their child. So yes, if you think of placement almost like the scales of justice, which is how I describe it to my clients, you're going to start off from an equal position. Now, placement can be altered by weighing one side on the other side. What are the parents' schedules? Where are the children going to school? What is the proximity in location from each parent? What works, again, for the best interest of the child to make sure they still have meaningful periods of placement with each other?